Hey everybody, thanks for coming to Converge Audio. This is Nick, and I have Malukah back on the show from years ago. You may have heard that interview that, hey Malukah, the new album, I Follow the Moon, she released recently, and I thought I'd reach out and say, hey, let's talk about it and get into some details about the recording and that whole process. So Malukah, thanks for coming on. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too, Nick, after so many years.
Yeah, it's been, I think, 3 years at this point. I just want to say congratulations on the new album because it's fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you like it.
It was an album that I just like how dynamic. You have some songs that go into some moments of appreciation and positivity, and then you dive into some that are more about longing and different, kind of more challenging experiences is what I gather. At least that's how I related to a few of them. And then, but also there was a great bit on there dedicated to Thor, and I was walking my dog at the time, and I'm like, oh, I love dogs, and, this is so great, so it got me a little bit emotional because I'm a big dog person. So, and is that Thor I'm seeing down the bottom?
Yeah. That's actually who the song is about.
Yeah. So when you started working on content for I Follow the Moon, was it something you had material from years ago and kind of built it up, or is it something that you just kind of focused on one bit and decided, all right, I'm going to tackle an album, make this a project, and then I'll have this specific time, then I'm going to release it?
I think that for many years I had written fragments of songs. I honestly did not think I would have an opportunity to record another original album. I recorded one in 2005. And so it, like, my mother bought a copy, I think, and my best friend, and that's it. So I've had, of course, more luck and success with covers, of course, because they give you a platform, a way to reach people that otherwise wouldn't know how to find you. And so I did not think that I was going to have any more opportunities to work on original music. But still, I've always loved songwriting. I've always kept songwriting whenever I could. And so I had all of these fragments, and then all of a sudden it didn't seem so impossible anymore, because I had gotten to work on a few projects, had gotten to a little bit more established on YouTube, and then I started streaming on Twitch about a little over 3 years ago, and I started saving as much money as I could, and all of a sudden I thought, this may be a way for me to save up enough money to produce an original album. And it may not sell, but at least I'll get to create it. I got into this whole mindset of, okay, one more album, and I don't care whatever happens next, if I have to work on covers the rest of my life, but just get one more original, because there is something so rewarding about working on original music as opposed to just re-recording another, a beautiful song written by somebody else. It's not quite as personal. It's hardly ever as personal. And so it became a goal, and so I shared this goal with the community on Twitch, with the community on Patreon, and said, am I crazy for wanting to do this? But thankfully, the community's response was super, super supportive, and they encouraged me to pursue that and to really try to get that done.
To see the way things have developed to the point where now we can reach out directly to the fan base and have them fund the record. That's a completely different ballgame.
It's incredible, because I remember right after I graduated from college, that was when YouTube started happening, and there was MySpace, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you recall a site called like Sonic Bids and Broadjam, and all of these platforms that were trying to help musicians go the indie route. And just thinking back, it's incredible how much all of this has grown and how much control we now get to have as indie musicians, because I would never have imagined that I would be able to record at home and release this song from my computer worldwide and be able to promote it on platforms like YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So it's incredible.
There has to be something amazing about seeing that momentum start to build of that support. Patreon followers, Twitch followers, people that just start to actually part with their cash to fund that.
Exactly. And the constant show of support, just comments and messages of encouragement of I'm looking forward to this, you can do this, come on, go, etc. People excited about it. It's the most incredible feeling in the world. And for me in particular, I tend to be somebody that just doubts everything I do. It really helps me to keep moving. It propels me.
With the vocals, there's this immediately attachable kind of sound that you have that people can really just instantly go, yeah, that sounds great. Then your lyrical content, that's what I like about this new album, is now we get to see kind of all the personal, just the content behind your artistry and your work. So I'm sure that the fans have brought that out quite a bit. That, like, we've had these covers, now let's get more into what makes Malukah. How did we get this kind of work from her?
Yeah, and I remember years ago, I think it was maybe 2016 or so, that I kind of dipped my toe in the water by releasing one original song called I Follow the Moon, which is a song that is also on this album, and why the album is named I Follow the Moon. And so I tried that out, among all of these covers, game covers usually. I released this one original song to kind of test the waters and see what the response would be like, and it was positive, thankfully. And ever since then, I believe that was a moment that really got the wheels turning, like, okay, maybe this can happen. I can find a way to make this work, to not abandon this love of writing music, to not let it just go to waste. So yeah, but it was little by little, because I hesitated a lot.
Yeah, building fragment by fragment,
yeah,
bit by bit. So what was there at some point where you realized, okay, I have enough of these fragments and enough support online, let's start getting some session musicians together and plan a big studio production? Because the footage that I've seen from from the album recording of I Follow the Moon, it shows that, and I'm not sure who these, I know I've seen these artists floating around, but maybe you could remind us who these session musicians were on there. So they did a really great job.
It was an incredible experience. I think at the beginning of that year, I had just gotten through the community support and encouragement. I just felt like, okay, this is the year. It has to happen this year. Otherwise, it's not going to, I'm just going to keep pushing it back, and it's never going to happen. And so I would make a real effort to every day write and continue, because I struggle with finishing songs. It's easy to get little ideas, but for me it's difficult to like stretch out the whole concept and to actually complete the song. And so I just made it my number one goal. This is the year, let's do it. And so every day I would write, and then as I would show fragments either on Twitch or on Patreon, like, okay, I just finished this song, what do you think, etc. And around, I think it was around June or May, I said, okay, I need to get musicians for this. I need to get a studio and start booking, because I was, I think, practically almost finished with all of the songs for the album, but I wanted to make sure to seal the deal. I wanted to book the studio and put out down payment and book things and to make sure I didn't back down. I didn't have a choice. And so I started researching studios here in Monterrey, and there's this really great facility called Victoria Records, which is actually where we ended up recording. It's like, I can't believe I didn't know more about it. Just when I found out about it, it's like this world-class studio, one of the best, or if not the best, in Latin America. And I was like, this is like next door. Mm-hmm. Why am I think I was so wrapped up in my own little bubble that I was like, I can't believe I have this available to me, and 5-minute drive. And so I saw
5 minutes
studio.
away. Okay.
yeah. Well, without traffic. With traffic, it's like 10.
That's super close by, though. It's like next door.
Yeah. And when I started thinking of musicians, I had two options. One, I had these really amazing friends from college, from Berklee College of Music, and they are the friends that helped me record the previous album. And these guys are fantastic musicians, wonderful players, and they are also like the most heartwarming people you could ever meet. So kind, so gentle, and so just good humans. And if if there is something that I want more of in my life, it's just to be surrounded by good humans. I think that's my favorite thing in the world. Just really nice people. And so the problem was I hadn't talked to them in about 10 years. You know how that is? And I was just like, well, how do I do this? How do you reach out to somebody? Because they're all based in Boston and New York in the U.S. And I'm based in Monterrey, Mexico. It's the northern part of Mexico. So how do you call somebody in 10 years without talking to them and be like, hey, remember me from college 10 years ago? Do you want to fly to Mexico?
Well, I was just thinking about that last week, and I'm glad you called. It's kind of a random thought, isn't it?
No, but thankfully
cool.
we had it was mutual, that we had good memories of each other, and that we had a good chemistry when it comes to music and stuff. And so thankfully they remembered me, and thankfully it happened that everybody was free, everybody was available, like for that specific window of time. Like they had things before, things after, but for that 1 week in September, they all could make it. And I'm like, well, damn.
That's sweet.
I think this is booked.
Yeah.
And so I decided to invite them all to Mexico as opposed to me flying to New York or Boston, because the studio time over there would have been catastrophically high in comparison to what the costs were here, including hotel rooms and transportation and blah, blah, blah. It would have ended up being more money than bringing 3 freaking musicians to flying them to Mexico and booking them a hotel. It still worked out to be within my budget. And so I booked their tickets, and I spent this was in June, and I spent the whole June, July, August, like with butterflies in my stomach and with just horrific anxiety, because what if the plane is delayed? What if the planes are canceled? What if Jack the drummer falls and breaks an arm? And
what if a world pandemic happens? Oh, that'll never happen.
Well, that is another story for the CD release party we were planning.
Oh, no. Is he all right? Like what?
No. We were thinking of doing a CD release party this year at like in February, March, but of course then all of this started.
Oh, my train of thought went on broken limbs and pandemic. I was
no,
like, wait,
no.
what?
Jack continues to have all of his limbs completely healthy.
Yeah, there's so many variables. Like everything has to work out perfectly. I think number one, being in Mexico is a huge advantage. Have you ever felt like that? You always hear about LA, New York, these prestigious studios. Being in Mexico, has that ever? Because look, I don't know much about life in Mexico. My family is of Mexican heritage. My father is, I think his family came to the U.S. when he was a kid or something like that. The further I go back, the less information I'm able to get about how my family came from Mexico. So there's very little that I know about it other than my last name translates to sheep. Yay.
Sheep.
Which, I guess the way it worked out is you would have a last name like Pescado if you were a fisherman, I guess. So they would just say, no, fish, sheep, blah, blah, blah. Very simple. So in some ways, it's like my last name is Shepherd. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm in Mass Effect now. But it's
exactly
trying to string too many things up together, I think.
Love it.
But as far as being in Mexico, though, like, does that ever feel like, it was already automatically kind of out of your head to realize there was something 5 minutes away. Has that kind of always been the train of thought, but maybe now future projects may even just continue to happen down there? Because if you're talking about flight, transport, and all that being under budget from bringing everybody in, that's actually a pretty huge advantage.
Yeah, I would say definitely for as long as I can remember, there has always been that whole air of prestige, from Los Angeles or Nashville or New York or all those big super music capitals. And so just for like bragging rights, I would say it would be so nice to say, my album recorded in Los Angeles.
I spent a lot more money than I maybe needed to. Yeah.
But I did wonder, like, if I was saving money for this, like, did I really want to not, to settle for something less than the best, less than Los Angeles, less than New York. But I have to tell you, if I had to record again, I would record again here. Because the one great advantage I think that I have here in Mexico is that I'm Mexican and I understand the people.
Yes.
No. There's a special kind of bond or I know how they work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
People in LA or New York they're literally foreign to me, but I don't know. You know what I mean? They can have different ways of talking and
absolutely. I ran into that moving to Australia. Is you think, oh hey, they just have a cool accent and that sort of thing. No, it's there's a completely different mode of conversation and social interaction that it's like learning a brand new language. So I'm assuming that would apply definitely Mexico versus
exactly.
A place
So
like
that for me was very comfortable and comforting because it was one level of nervousness that I was able to avoid. Because I think if I had gone somewhere fancier and more expensive where the clock was ticking and all of the thousands of dollars were like just flying away, I wouldn't have been able to concentrate as much. And we were very lucky that the people that we got to work with at the studio, they were super, super kind and just a good team. All of the engineers and the runners, the practice apprentice.
Yeah, like the apprentices and like interns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're super nice and super interested and involved. And so that was cool.
Wow. What a cool like collaborative experience. I mean, you were able to kind of get it all down, get the material to them. How much advance does a session musician need for an album like yours where, here's the material and what kind of stuff did you have to flick over? Tabs, chords, music, everything written out, transcribed? Or was it just here's some audio?
No. I think I was so excited about this and so nervous about this that I made this whole Dropbox folder and I had all of the like lead sheets and I had the lyrics and I had like a schedule and I had a text file with notes saying like, for this song, I am imagining this and this kind of drums that kind of sounds like this other song and like references and anything that I could think of that could help these guys. And I sent this folder, I think at the end of June, something like that. And I actually didn't hear back from these guys until August, like saying, hey, Malu, the songs are cool. I've already heard, because they're so good. They really don't need to practice. They're session musicians and funny enough, they also are recording engineers, but they have the level of session musicians. I don't. I need to practice and memorize and stuff. But these guys, you put anything in front of them and they can play it. And so they listened on their own and they had their own sets of notes. And in particular, the guitar player, Alexander Knudsen, the Norwegian guy, he had his own set of lead sheets, chord sheets that he made. Like he didn't, I noticed that he wasn't using mine. He had like his own and I'm like, oh, well, fine.
So he transcribed the music himself. He took your recordings and then just made his own transcriptions from it.
Based on my chords that I wrote down on the lead sheet and everything, but he wrote sheet music for himself with his own arrangement ideas because he had every single part already thought of and practiced and everything. So that was very, very impressive.
Yeah, that's
and very
cool.
Reassuring to get to see that in the studio because then it's almost like I didn't have to do anything. It's just like 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, song ready.
How crazy would that be? Because I remember the days of having like a little 4-track Tascam recorder, and you'd be with your friends in your room, and it would just sound like complete garbage, right? But it was just cool. Like, yeah, we're getting something at least recorded on a cassette tape. Then we're in this age where you can come up with this album, have it to where you just need to have the ability to funnel everybody into a window, get them in the studio, and just crank out this album within a short amount of time. How many days did you guys get to have in the studio with everybody playing?
We had 6 days in the studio.
Wow.
We practiced for 2 of them. And then we recorded the other 4.
There you go.
Let me see. They arrive on Monday.
It sounds so good.
Tuesday. Yeah. I'm glad.
I can't. I just think that 2 days worth just and then just rehearsal And then were you guys, and then you guys, I'm assuming the studio was paid for that time, so you were able to just do that in the studio, and then
Exactly.
Yeah.
For convenience sake, what I ended up doing is I booked the extra time as for practice, and it was cool because it was a huge studio. I did not deserve it. It was like bigger than anything that I
it's
that I-
nice looking. It looks really nice.
Exactly. It's like how could I say that? That sounded wrong that I don't deserve it, but it was like overkill. It was a lot more than I needed, is what I mean to say. But in having this enormous live room, they were able to set up all of us in stations. We had Alex on the guitar, Ian on bass, Jack on drums, and everybody with headphones. And so we could all hear each other, and so we could practice. And we were recording the practice as well. So then afterwards we could listen back and say, hey, here I like this, or here let's change this. And so, for example, I'd get home from the studio, I'd get the hard drive and listen back to the practices, make MP3, send them to the guys, and with notes and everything. And then the next morning, talked it over, but then moved on to the next song. So we had to practice 5 or 6 songs each day. But those 2 days of practice were just really very, very helpful, and a lot of fun to be able to be in the same room as people that you really like.
Oh yeah.
And hanging out, and the jokes and everything, because it would have been sad if they had just arrived to separate ourselves and, okay, drums first, drums and bass, go into your booths.
Yeah.
I didn't want that experience to be the only thing.
Well, I gotta
that we could
imagine
share.
getting some of your closest friends together to not necessarily even just hang out, but to make an album, to play together after coming that far. That's pretty awesome. That would be a wild experience. I bet those 2 days probably flew. Actually, I can imagine that the time would have flown on that.
Definitely. And they were the longest days ever, because we would wake up early and leave the studio and then go and have a meeting and then go to dinner and stuff. But they were like, it was the highest energy that I have felt in a long time. Like, I was not tired. I was just happy. I was just flying.
Yeah.
You know, it's floating over the clouds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still, you know, thinking back, I can't believe, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I hear how nice the album sounds. I can't believe we did that in such a short amount of time, and after 10 years of not playing together. So
Yeah, it's you listen to it, the album, it's very cohesive, and like performance wise, obviously the content that you've created is fantastic, and then
thank you.
listening to with the way everybody's put that together, it has a very natural, organic, very authentic kind of feel to it. And with the lyrical content, in terms of what you mentioned about just these fragments here and there, were these just bits? Do the lyrics and the songwriting kind of go for you the same way, where songs and lyrics kind of go together bit by bit, or do you have like lyrics that you've kind of just jotted down as something that you thought would work really well in something? Are they kind of hand in hand as you write together? Because I've seen songwriters kind of do it one way or another. I'm going to put the lyrics here and then separate for the guitar. You know,
Yeah.
some people do it together.
I think it can happen in many different ways. What usually happens to me is I think melody is so attached to lyrical phrases that to me it's one thing, and it's one little line of like the hook of the song or something. But I honestly can't tell what came first, if the words or the melody, because they just like clash in my mind, and all of a sudden they're there. And so I have these little phrases, these melodies with lyrics that I like, and then I build a song around those.
Gotcha.
And you know what? Now that you mentioned the lyrical content and how you say that it's cohesive, for a long time, the biggest doubt I had about the songs that I was putting together is I felt they were disjointed. They were all over the place. Like, I like them separately, but I felt like they won't work on an album. They don't make any sense together. But it's funny that sometimes you just don't know, and you have to shut up and you have to do things and see what happens. Because now, listening back, I'm like, of course they fit together, because they're the last 10 years of my life.
Yeah, they're
They
your
fit
words in your
together
life.
because exactly they fit together because they happen. They're things I've felt, things that I have lived, and maybe I'm glad it sounds cohesive to you. Maybe it doesn't sound cohesive to anybody else in the world, but to me, it's like yes, my life condensed.
I think it,
So that was
yeah.
nice.
Well, you being clearly the best artists are obviously always going to be the ones who are, the harshest critics. It's like that old cliche, but I think that it's useful now, whatever kind of mental, strain that you've put yourself through to create that. The old saying, yeah, pressure makes diamonds, but it's like in a lot of ways it's kind of true, and if you do it to yourself, you got to walk that fine line between whether you're being over the top with it, or if you're just being okay. Here I am, just being down on myself. Like, I mean, most people kind of have that natural tendency, but looking back, it's kind of like, all right, I as an outsider, I can see that there's nothing where it's like, oh, there's no just disjointed feel about it. And I think if you wanted to, you could take any of the greatest albums of all time, and you could find ways to say, oh, this is disjointed because of this and that and the other. When in reality, it's kind of just a matter of what you're getting out of it and how you draw those things together, because the lyrics are going to go any direction. It's about what it means to you as a listener. There was a couple songs and there was like, wow, I mean, I'm in a different place than I was like a decade ago or so. But I think we've all had somebody, have lost somebody, have experienced loss, that sort of thing. And I just really appreciated how you were able to kind of go into those vulnerable type of areas for specific moments in the album. Where did you go? Is that the track name? I'm trying to, yeah. So it that was relatable on a lot of levels for me from years ago in a previous life experience. But I was like, wow, that's such a cool delivery of that and an explanation of that concept and the way that it's delivered. There's cohesion there. Otherwise, that wouldn't be my takeaway. And I'm thinking that I saw a tweet that I saw from one of your fans that mentioned what I Follow the Moon meant to them. And once again, the whole time you're thinking, oh, this is so disjointed. There's this cohesion that's not there. It's there. And it's just, you mentioned with covers, there's a foundational thing you can do with covers. And now your original stuff, it's so cool to see what this is the latest from your 10 years of working to go outside of the covers, because we all love the covers. The covers are great. It's obvious. Millions of people have viewed them. They're great. And you've revisited some, which is super cool.
Yeah.
With the content going forward, obviously there's no way to know 100% what anybody's going to do with their career, but do you think that most likely you'll have a few covers here and there and just continue to develop another album similar to this, or do you have any outlook, or are you just kind of just taking it as it comes?
I think that the way I feel today, this may change tomorrow. No, but the way that I'm feeling at this time of my life, I am very, very thankful for being able to record covers, because they do provide, they help provide my income, and that income is what allows me to follow my dreams. So my dreams are not necessarily what create my actual dream of writing songs and being an original songwriter. So that can't really, how do you say, it doesn't pay the bills.
There was a meme I saw recently that, how they have the construction work says, my hands look like this, so her hands can look like that, or whatever. It's like, oh, that's sweet, This one I just saw yesterday, it said, my hands look like this, and it has his hands on the keys, so hers can look like this, and it's a credit card swiping through that says declined on the POS machine. It's like... but the reason why I thought that was so hilarious is like, dude, it's like you have to take what you can to make this work for you, and I think it's a brilliant thing you've done with getting these covers going. And
one of the things that has helped me make peace with making covers, because I think I have always felt in the back of my mind like a little I'm settling in not pursuing being the composer and the songwriter, and I'm just recording pre-existing music. But something a realization that I had that was very humbling was that this is music that I could never write. because I don't have those composers' experiences or musical brain workings, and to be able to make covers of these songs and learning how to play them, learning how to sing them, that helps me practice and be a better musician. I could never challenge myself like that with just writing my original music. I need people that are way on another level to like keep me on my toes and keep me striving to be better. And so when I realized that, I'm like, there's absolutely nothing wrong about making covers. It's fantastic to be able to have the opportunity to have it be a learning experience, and to have a learning experience help provide a way of making a living.
Definitely. You're able to take a platform that's built up, like if someone's into a song from a game, like obviously something from Skyrim or the Witcher series or anything along those lines, and you've done these awesome covers. People are already drawn to that because they've experienced something pretty profound in those games. They weren't just kind of playing it in passing. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't recognize a song. But we have to give huge credit to the games industry for, despite how difficult it is to work in that industry and the kind of hours they put in, which just sounds just grueling and just so challenging. They have to give a lot of thanks to what they've created for song content, because whether it's something from a bard inside the game, or if it's a cover, or if it's like Reignite, where you've kind of like made a medley and combined different elements of it. Were you ever able to foresee that these covers would be a way to support your original work?
No, not at all. And that whole thing happened because of that my one hit wonder that the Dragonborn comes.
It's not a one hit. It's a hit, but I want you've had.
No. But it's the greatest hit, of all time for me, and that was just totally unexpected. I had no idea. I don't think I was familiar with people covering. No, I was familiar with people covering game songs. There's this guy, Freddie Grady, I think that's how you say his name, who made a Zelda cover. That was brilliant, with many tiny windows, playing guitar and flute and piano and accordion and all of these things. And so I was aware. Well, I knew him. I didn't know that because it was. There are many other people covering video game songs, but I wasn't aware of any others, and so I just recorded that, not thinking anything about it. I actually made it because I wanted to share it on my blog at the time, my blog about video games, and never expected that it would take off as it did, and never in a million years expected that it could lead somewhere like this, that I am now able to be making a living as an independent musician. It's really a shock still.
It's fantastic. It really is like a lot of people strive for that, and that the fact that you've achieved that, and you kind of are aware of how to build that, I think that speaks volumes about kind of just your overall wisdom about what you've been able to experience and grow, and it translates into your sound. Like when another tweet, I like to read people's. Make sure, like I said before, don't miss anything. See what was out there, what people have been talking about with you, and but one of your tweets actually, is you were wondering why when I sing do I sound sad? Why do I sound sad? And I was like, what's she talking about? Like I've never thought she sounded. You know what I mean? And then somebody replied, and I was like, boom, that's exactly it. They said, so you don't sound sad, you sound wise. Like you sound like you have experience.
Like Gandalf.
Well, then I imagine you with like this massive beard, and I was like, she should slap on put it on the front of the hat.
It's crazy that even sorry to interrupt you. It's crazy.
No, go ahead.
To this day,
it's about you, not me.
I still struggle with my vocal self-esteem. There are days when I feel happy and thankful for the voice that I have, but then there are other days where I wish I sounded different. I wish, like specifically, I wish I sounded happier and younger, because I hear all like, and what I mean by that is like a smoother voice, a cleaner voice, maybe like an EDM kind of voice that it's like very cuts through the music and just floats and is angelic. And what I have is what my singing teacher once told me. Is like, Malukah, you're not Celine Dion with her, thin, flexible voice that can reach, Everest with her range. You don't have a thin voice. You're not Enya. And I'm like, heartbroken. I am not Enya.
But I love Enya. Yeah.
But he's like, but you're like Mother Earth. And I'm like, what does that mean? But it's just that I have, my voice is I think the best way to describe it is hefty. It's just like thick.
Well, if you call it hefty or thick, like I've described my Gibson Les Paul that way, that it has a hefty and thick tone. I've used those exact things, but that doesn't mean big. That means it's the reason I like the Les Paul is it has a substantial sound to it that I don't necessarily get from other guitars. It doesn't have the best action in the world. It's not the fastest guitar in the world, but the tone is very, it's very specific to that guitar. So with what you kind of grapple with in terms of what you want, has that gotten better over the years? And now that you've had enough people saying, "Wait, I actually like how you sound," does that ever go away? I guess is what I'm getting to. Has it diminished at all, or does it still kind of pop up and you got to fight it off? Or
no, it has diminished a lot. Thankfully, now I have more self-esteem, more like these days when I'm thinking like, I wish I was Enya. They're farther in between, few and in. What's the expression? I don't know. The
instances of feeling that way are fewer and farther between. Is that what you mean?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And the feedback has helped, and also the singing lessons I think have also helped tremendously, because the instructor has been trying to like make me understand since the beginning. I would take a song, I want to learn this. Malukah, this is too high for you. It's like you're setting yourself up for disappointment by singing something that is out of your vocal range. I always felt like a bad singer, especially if you listen to the album that I have from 2005, 2006. I often felt like I was a bad singer, but I feel now, looking back, listening back, is because I was singing out of my range. I was always striving and hurting and shouting and I think there is something very beautiful about embracing the kind of sound that I have, and it has helped me to take the songs and lower them and see how easy singing becomes when it's in your range. It's a world of difference, and it's so much more enjoyable. You can feel the voice resonate without straining, and it's just super soothing to be able to sing like that. And so I'm very thankful that I have learned to appreciate that, because it would have been such a shame if I had spent my whole life thinking I was terrible at something because I wasn't doing it right.
Or doing it out of what's physically within.
Exactly.
Within your natural range. When going in through vocals, because I've had choir, I've had vocal lessons, that sort of thing. I think you're touching on a very important thing for vocalists to understand, is that when, especially young vocalists who are just hearing this stuff for the first time, is that it's not even a matter of it's out of your range, as in, it's out of your skill set, or it's out of your your ability to do it, in terms of what you are hearing and the notes that they are. The ability lies within kind of your genetics in a way, and the anatomy, the actual part of your throat that is designed to do this. You're born with a certain genetic makeup, and that will determine these ranges. So what you're saying is, instead of you trying to sit on this other end that you weren't naturally inclined to work within, you've come to know where your best zone is, and that's where the real resonance, the real natural and more powerful kind of sound comes from.
It's powerful is a good word. It's empowering. It's empowering to realize that, and to be able to take ownership of that. And once I took ownership of my Mother Earth voice, I started appreciating that yes, I cannot reach super high, floaty, angelic tones, but I have really nice deep tones that like really deep and meaty and they are useful for something else in another context, but it doesn't make them any less. They're just different.
Where do you think you're going to be going on the next one? Do we have some new covers that we're going to be looking at soon? I'm assuming you're, probably got some cool stuff coming down the track and people hit you up. I would imagine someone has to say, she would be awesome if I covered, or if she covered our thing now.
Yeah,
Do you feel more of that
suggestions.
coming back now? Do you have more people talking to you about it?
Funny enough, I just finished recording an Enya song.
Yeah,
but
you're working on May It Be, right?
Much lower. Yeah, May It Be. I've just finished recording that, and my hope is to record the rest of the Lord of the Rings songs that I haven't yet covered, to release an EP. I don't know if I have enough tracks for a full album, but if not, at least a Lord of the Rings EP with, or Tolkien EP, because there's Misty Mountains as well, and that from Hobbit. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on next. And I have definitely, for example, one suggestion that I've gotten that I really like is the Jaina Proudmoore song from World of Warcraft, the Daughter of the Sea. They released that song as part of a trailer for World of Warcraft. It's so beautiful, and I would love to cover that. And there are several different songs that people have requested over the years that I've got my eyes on, and that I hope to get to cover this year.
Excellent. And as an massive Elder Scrolls fan that I am, I'm sure you never hear the end of, you should be in Elder Scrolls 6. Which, yeah.
My friend Dr. Pete tells me, like, Malukah, we need to gather an army to convince them. No, it would be, of course, it would be incredible. But I can't even begin to imagine all of the things that they have to deal with and to decide on. So I have no expectations, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Well, it is a juggernaut. It is one of the biggest, in the scope of the game itself, but then the name and the business of itself is just incredibly massive. But it is pretty cool that you're in Elder Scrolls Online. When that is that's some of that work coming into fruition. How was it? And I know you were, for the last little bit, I'll just kind of dive into Elder Scrolls Online if I can.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Maybe in your humble kind of mindset, it maybe doesn't hit you this way, but as a musician seeing it from the outside, I'm like, how cool would it be to be the bard in a game, or the music for a bard in a game? And I was a fan of that game to begin with, but now I'm actually in the game. Does that ever just kind of blow your mind a little bit? I mean, it
completely blows my mind. I still have to remind myself that it happened. And I remember, I think one of the coolest things about the experience of working on the songs, the music of the bard songs for that game, because the lyrics they had written, their team had written. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote the music and I got to record them. And I had to play a lute for that. I had to buy a lute. And lute is a nightmare. I never want to touch a lute again. Yeah, it's so difficult.
Is it the one you've had in the videos? Is it that specific one? Okay.
No. It's a more traditional looking lute, but I managed to power through. I managed to record them, and so I sent them the songs, and they happened to also hire a professional lute player to record all of those songs as instrumentals, because one of the features of the game is you can have your character, and anywhere you are, you can just hit a shortcut, and you can, the character takes out a lute and starts playing the songs, the instrumentals. And they got this incredible player that all of a sudden make my crappy lute music, sound like freaking Mozart or something. It was amazing. It was the coolest experience ever. Because I am so judgmental about everything that I do. So I'm just like, okay, fine. So this works. But then I heard the songs played by an instrumental, like a professional instrumentalist. And it just made me sit straighter and feel like so nice so nice because it's like, okay, there's something there. It's nice. It's cool.
That's pretty amazing.
And
That's
yeah,
amazing.
and
They'll take that. And this is they had the lyrics, so you had the music, but then they hired a lute player. Is that right? And then
yeah.
the lute player did their take on what you wrote for
the songs where they have singing, where they have either my voice or any of the other bard voices singing. I think it's my lute playing, my average lute playing. But when they are performed as instrumentals, they have like these gorgeous instrumental tracks.
That's profound stuff. That you connect the what you call a one-hit wonder. It's not a one-hit wonder. It's the first hit, in my opinion. You take the first hit, you draw that to now you're part of the history of that game. Like that's always going to be there.
And how cool is it of them to have taken a chance on a fan?
Absolutely.
How mad is that? It's like how like that was a big risk. That was a huge risk.
But then
I still can't believe that they took the chance.
But they're so smart with the way they've handled Elder Scrolls and Fallout, in my opinion, in terms of their marketing. And with online though, that would be smart because you're looking at appealing to a base of fans that are needing to be active. And so with what you've done online, that's pulling in some pretty some pretty good numbers, if you want to call them that. But they're individual people who love your music. So each individual person that there's now this interest in, and being able to draw that in. Some people may have even just had more interest in playing the game on that alone. I mean, you have some pretty devoted fans, and I think that was a really, really cool move. But as a musician, I just kind of think, wow, that's mind-blowing landmark stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like when I've talked to Mick Gordon in the past about when he did Doom 2016. Before that, we had talked about liking Doom music. He may have already known about the project at the time. I don't know. He may have, like, man, this is so cool. And but then you see them in their work in the game. And in my opinion, like when I play Doom, when I play this new Doom, when I'm listening to that musician stuff, the experience is even more powerful for me. So I can imagine if there's someone who's a Malukah fan playing Elder Scrolls Online, then they get to hear your voice in the game. That's really going to drive.
I've gotten some very nice messages or tweets from people saying, "Hey, is that you?" Yeah, it's very nice. It feels awesome.
Well, your fan base is consistently so positive and so nice. On Twitter and Facebook, with Twitch. I mean, I've seen a couple of your Twitch streams. I don't go on Twitch very often, but I like that it's able to highlight not just you as a musician, but you as just your personality. Do you feel like when you go into Twitch, it's just like you kind of just have like a general, we're going to play this today and see how it goes? Is there any more thought that goes into that? Is it just more natural on Twitch and just kind of in the moment kind of content?
I think by now it is more often than not an in a moment sort of thing. When I started on Twitch, I was a musician streamer. So all my streams were music, and I would just play and ask for requests, and I would just stay in that zone, because I think when I first started, I was very nervous and didn't know what to expect from the community and things like that. So it was easier to have something to do. Like, okay, this is a plan. Let's do the plan. But after I got to know the community, and then I said, okay, I'll play a game, and they tolerated my game playing. And that was a lot of fun. And then eventually I felt comfortable enough to just say, hey, let's just chat today. What have you guys been doing? My day has been like this, or blah, blah. And we just, it's really fun. Those streams tend to be the ones where I think I laugh the most, because the people in the community are just so funny. They have a great sense of humor. And by now they have all of these jokes, like they've gotten to know each other as well. And so, for example, Andy Bobandi is the one that has the messiest desk, because on one stream I was like, tweet me pictures of your desk space, and everybody sent their pictures of their setup and their computers, and then Andy's desk is just a jungle of papers and garbage, literally garbage. And so now we always make fun of him for that. And for everybody, there's always something, that they're known for. And so it's really cool to have just this group of people that are so constant. They're so constant. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And for somebody that works from home all of the time, that I just sit here alone, it's just so nice to have that, 2 or 3 hour window just to chat.
It's starting to feel a little bit like the Matrix these days. It's starting to feel a little bit like that. It's like you just jack in, and then now you're hanging out with hundreds of people. Yeah. Like I need to. What have you played Doom on Twitch? Sorry about her Twitch fans. It's probably a dumb question.
Yes, I've played the 2000. What is it? 2016 one, and I'm currently playing Doom Eternal right now. Loving the music.
That's got to be a blast to watch that. Yeah, it's the intensity of that. Seeing you in such an intense environment would be hilarious. So
I always end with like shoulder pain or lower back pain because I'm so tense.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. When I went to work, I'm like, man, why are my feet tingling? Like my feet are numb, and it's because I'm like sitting there leaning and straining for hours on end.
And plus, I saw, was it Twitter or Facebook? I don't know, that you played it super late, or you finished it super late, and so then you were left with like the adrenaline rush.
Yeah. Oh, let me just lull myself to sleep now that I just defeated the end boss. And it's I don't know if you've beaten it yet, but it just ramps up. They figured out a way to get it more and more intense as it went along. So,
crap!
It's
I may have to, as it ramps up, I may have to lower the difficulty.
Yeah,
I'm playing it on normal right now. I may have to go one step lower because it has me cursing. When something has me cursing on stream, it means that it's like I was telling the chat, like, this is my Dark Souls. Like this Doom Eternal on normal is my Dark Souls. That's my equivalent.
Oh yeah,
because it is so difficult.
I've compared that exactly to Dark Souls. Like I'm here to just constantly die in this game. Like it's going to happen over and over again. But yeah, it's I think it's so cool that you've been able to tie it all in together. You're really utilizing the kind of tech we have to bring in a fan base from your music and from my own.
And I wanted to thank you for just the fact that you listen to it and that you really listen to it. That you notice the lyrics and stuff like that, because that means the most to me. And so I just thank you for inviting me to talk about it a bit more.
Absolutely. And awesome. My Spotify says it was released on November 11th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's right.
That's an important date to me as well. But I saw that and I was like, yeah, because 11/11/11, that was a big day. It's just cool to have this newest album from you. And so as far as distribution platforms, is it basically just on all the standards? I mean, I listen to it on Spotify. Is there any place that you would recommend that helps you out? Do you have Bandcamp
Spotify,
by chance?
I do have Bandcamp. That's always a good place to listen. It's fantastic if to buy music on there, because you get to download the format that you want. If in case you're interested in getting like the full audio format, like full quality. So the Bandcamp is pretty cool about that. Spotify is super helpful if you guys listen on there, or Apple Music, and also I did add all of videos. I hired a friend to help me make lyric videos for all of the songs. So I have them all on my channel, because the lyrics are so important to me. I wanted to have them be easily available.
And you have a lyric book in the physical album, which is really cool, by the way. I love it. Yeah. Can you pull that lyric book out real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I love that you've done this, because that's something that I think once you have a physical, tangible thing like that, it really gives someone the chance to kind of just focus on one thing just for a moment on what the lyrics contain. It's a dying art.
It's a dying art to have lyric books on physical albums, I think. I really like it, and it if I keep making physical albums, I hope to always be able to include lyrics, because it's either that or look for them on Google, and they have all the wrong lyrics on Google. I searched for Fear Not This Night from Guild Wars, just quickly on Google to be able to sing it, and the lyrics were like completely wrong, and I'm like, what is this? So it's always nice to have like the lyrics straight from the source. I think.
Definitely. Well, if it's dying art, I'm here to remind everybody that there is something cool about that. If vinyl can come back, I think lyric books have some room there to come back as well. Because I mean,
I
it's
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, awesome. Well, as always, Malukah, thanks again. It's always awesome to talk to you. And
You too, Nick.
thank you. And yeah, let's just let's get those new covers coming, and hopefully another album to follow this one. I know that me and tons of people are always keen, so we're looking forward to it.
All right. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Stay safe. I know
Stay
everybody
indoors.
is not sick of hearing about it at this point, but yeah, stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah. Until next time, then, Malukah. Thanks again.
All right.
Cheers.
Thank you, Nick.
See ya.
Cheers. It seems that my life follows the moon. At times it's half empty, and sometimes it's full.